Skye Wallace is me. I'm kind of a weird guy, but I'm a singer-songwriter based out of Toronto, Ontario, Canada. I usually play with a full band, and that's like an alt-rock kind of thing, but I also do a solo set, an acoustic version, and that kind of brings it into the alt-folk territory. So, you know, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. I love to tour, and I've played in Germany quite a lot, which is where I met you. I currently live in Toronto, Ontario, but I was born in Scarborough, which is a suburb of Toronto. But then I moved around a lot, around Canada, mostly all over Ontario, and then on the West Coast in BC as well. It kind of primed me for life on the road because we moved around so much, my family and I, which is great. It was strange, but it was cool. When I was little, I lived in a house with my grandparents, my parents, and my aunt and uncle, who were still in high school. And I think I got into music via them because everybody had a different kind of take on what music to like. You know, I listened to Willie Nelson a lot in the womb, and I continued to like country in that like neo-trad 90s country that was going on, like Randy Travis. My grandfather was really into that. My aunt and uncle were really into like I think like Cake and Sloan, which is another Canadian band from Toronto. And so I kind of like I was always drawn to music. I started like going and getting singing lessons when I was quite young, like 8. And then I started playing guitar. Well, I started playing banjo first, and I didn't really know how to play banjo, but I wanted to write music. So I pretended to play the banjo until I got myself a guitar and started learning when I was about 15 or so. So it's been a long road of wonder and love for music for me.
There's a light in everything, anything can be broken down. Light in every body crumbling river. Wait for the living like safe now.
I would say that more recently I have been more aware of who my idols actually are, one of which I got to open for very recently. That's Laura Jane Grace from the band Against Me. And I was so into them as a teenager, all through, my 20s. I forgot the extent to which they influenced my art, which is so cool. And I think that the reason why my music kind of has this like punk adjacency is because of Against Me. So seeing her perform, I played 2 shows with her, and it was just a dream. But like hearing all of those songs, it made me realize just how internalized they were and how they influenced individual songs that I hear. And, I learned a lot of guitar chords via learning their tabs on the internet for their songs. So it was a very cool experience. I would say Laura Jane Grace is a huge influence for me. Patti Smith, Neil Young. There's just so many. There's so much that goes into one person's musical influence. I did have singing lessons. It started off in kind of like that like Kiwanis festival where you'd have to perform and be adjudicated and very like technical ways of singing. And then my teacher kind of continued his practice on his own as like an alternative learning kind of thing. And we still did a lot of classical music. We did a lot of like operettas and very like, technical ways of singing. but it involved lots of different kinds of music, and we got to create our own curriculum, bring in sheet music that we wanted to learn and read. And his name was Garvin Farr, and he was an amazing Welsh dude, like old school Welsh dude, who taught us to really tighten the abs in order to be lifting from the diaphragm. He's like, you should be able to punch yourself in the stomach. It's so hard. So that was my initial, it was years of this, and we had such a good relationship. Him and my brother and my sister sometimes too would do singing lessons with him. And I think while I don't sing like that anymore, it really laid the foundations for technique and breathing and just good practices. I think if I didn't have that, my voice might have been toast by now, because of just the amount of touring and the volume to which I tend to sing. So thanks, Garvin. I largely just play the guitar. I mean, like I said, I kind of play banjo, not really. I play flute, but I haven't done that for a while. I'm getting more into MIDI and production, so I'm playing a lot of keyboard, doing a lot of synth stuff, which is really fun. But yeah, voice is I would say voice is my main instrument, and then guitar. Deep in my chest, can I shake it? This is a tough one because I feel like my genre is myself, which is so artsy to say. I think, especially in this day and age, I feel like genre is expanding to the point where it's almost disappearing, because it is a genreless state can be such a thing. And we're all, artists are forever growing. We're all forever growing and changing. And I think there's a beauty to seeing it that way. So, I've certainly evolved over the course of the years that I've been making music, and I started in a folk kind of, just me and the guitar kind of thing, and then it became bigger and bigger and more distorted, and I kept, seeking to find my voice, and I think I always will be. I think that voice will always change. Right now, I would say I do an alt rock, especially, you want to think about where you can fit and what kind of people would like your music. So I think the alt rock sort of sphere is where I'm finding, especially this new record that is unannounced but coming, is where I like to exist. I'm currently signed to a label, and they are my management as well. So they're called Tiny Kingdom Music. They're based out of Vancouver and Halifax, and we've been working together for 7 or 8 years. Savannah, who's my manager and one of the heads of the company, was and still is an amazing musician, but we met each other by way of the Vancouver music scene. So that was kind of it was already a fostered friendship. I really trust everything that they do, because especially Savannah comes from a place of having been in the artist seat, and they're very equitable. They want to just support you as an artist, whatever it is that you want to do. So that's been a very pleasant experience, and I'm excited to put out the first album with them. This is the first one that we've collaborated on in a label sense, so very excited. I do all my own writing for my songs, although over the last few years I've gotten into co-writing a lot, and it used to be something that I kind of shied away from. I was like, I'm a lone wolf. Like I have I had a lot of insecurities as well, as far as like, oh, I'm not sure how much I can bring to the table, or do I write music in the correct way? But what I've learned is that there is no correct way, and everybody has their own different way of doing things. So co-writing just really opens you up to different ideas and different ways of writing that I think broadens your abilities as an artist and your skill set. And I've gotten to write some awesome, like, from the last record, Everything Is Fine was a co-write with my really good friend Alex Marusik, and that was just such a cathartic experience. Sometimes the song that you write doesn't end up doing anything, and that's okay. You can write a song that doesn't get released and still have a lot to benefit from a co-writing session. So for the most part, I'd say I do a lot of the writing myself. This upcoming record, I would say 4 or 5 songs were co-written by Hawksley Workman and I, and we actually ended up co-producing the entire record. So it was very much like a collaborative process. And even, I'm starting to dabble in, this is my first production on my own songs and project, but I'm starting to take on a production role for other people's. So I would say that like Hawksley took me under his wing because he's like a very prominent, well-known producer and artist. And I've looked up to him for some time. That record of Hey Rosetta's Into Your Lungs was like my favorite thing in kind of like end of high school. So he really taught me a lot, and I also got to like engineer a lot of my record. He played a lot of the drums for the record. He's an amazing drummer as well, so I got to engineer the drums, and we'd switch spots, and it was a very, very dynamic, very collaborative experience. So that was wonderful. Another song on that record was written with my friend Jem, who's an amazing artist based out of Toronto, and then the rest were me. Actually, one more was with Matt Mays, who's an amazing singer-songwriter based out of Canada as well. Yeah, I guess kind of a mixed bag these days. A little bit of this, a little bit of that. I like writing, I like creating, I like being creative. And however that gets to happen, I'm happy.
On an island in the Atlantic, I just gotta go. Gotta leave home. Gotta leave home. Gotta get out of here.
Yeah, I've been doing music for a long time. I started, I think, when I was about 19. That was when I first went into the studio and like laid down that first EP, and then went on tour about a year later. And it was all very DIY, very like self-booked. I couldn't drive, so I was just like training around and like getting, family members to pick me up at train stations and things like that, staying on couches, which still happens, I'm not so fancy. But yeah, it was a really cool means of starting out because it was totally grassroots, total DIY, and I think that's a really cool place to be starting from, of having your hands in everything, every aspect of your career. I got to learn what to expect and what I wanted and like what my goals were, just a lot more easily because I was handling it all, and it wasn't easy, but I do think that like having that control from early on, it's just been a wealth of experience and learning and knowledge. So yeah, very cool. As far as the ideas for my lyrics, I feel like I've been writing for so long, kind of like to tie into the earlier part of the question, like I've been writing for almost 20 years, probably earlier, because I would always like write songs that didn't end up, doing anything. Before I knew what I was doing, I was still writing. And so I think like a lot of lyrics just kind of like come to me. And, when I first started co-writing, back to the co-writing, for instance, I would, when I first started doing them, come with ideas and like make sure I was very prepared. And more recently, which is maybe like more risky, maybe some people wouldn't like working this way, but I've started coming in with nothing and being like, let's just vibe and see what comes out. Because I think there's a certain level of waiting to see what the song wants to be and following those directions and pulling on those threads, that is really exciting to me. And I think I've done it enough that they just come. And there's that trust there. So, there's elements that come from the gut. There's elements that come from the air. I think a lot of the time the song for me just kind of spills out, which is not everybody's experience. But yeah, I like to think of the little pieces as the ones coming to you instead of me creating them, if you know what I mean. Actually, more on that, kind of like a tree, the tree is growing the fruit. I'm not the tree, I'm picking the fruit. So, feel free to keep that if you want or not. It's a weird metaphor. So music for me is a funny thing because I feel like I love music, obviously, but it is work now. So I go through periods of not wanting to listen to music just because it's, I'm thinking about the production. I'm thinking about how can I open for this band? I'm stressing about my career. Just like I sometimes can go through periods of having a negative relationship with it. And what really turned around my feelings when I was really burnt out recently was this thing called Music League that my friends put together. And basically it got me into listening to new music again and just finding new music, getting excited about making playlists and things like that. So I've been very stoked on just a lot of stuff. I've been listening to a lot of ambient things. I've been listening to, make playlists to bike to. I'm really into, let's see, what are some, I'm opening up my thing, right? The Krungbin kind of zone is where I love to exist. I'm really into this artist called Skinny Palembe right now. He has a bunch of stuff that I'm listening to on repeat. And then let's see, Kendrick Lamar, of course. We got, you can cut this out if you want, by the way. Hermanos Gutierrez. Really cool, all instrumental music. Very cool. I love it. Oh, and Hemlock Springs I'm really into right now. American. Very cool. Very, very cool. And Pink Shift. Pink Shift rules. This is a really interesting question because, I do feel like that. Good example of this is I had a songwriting session with somebody who was based out of Nashville, and I didn't know him very well. And I'm not going to no shade or anything. I just felt like it was something that he said made me realize that not everybody experiences this in the same way, where he was like, age doesn't matter. Age, you can just keep going in the music industry as long as you want. And he's technically correct. There's a lot to be said for, tenacity and sticking with it and resilience and things like that. But I do think women and gender non-conforming people in the music industry, people start to, I feel like their value does depreciate, or it feels as though their value is being made to depreciate in the eyes of the industry. And I'm 34, for instance, and it's a funny it's a funny thing where I felt like nobody took me seriously until I was past 30 as far as like my artistic voice. But then also, as soon as you turn around, it's like there's this expectation for youth and, you know, things like I want to have a family and, you know, like cis male musicians don't have to think about things like breastfeeding on the road and things like that. It just becomes very much more complicated. And I think it's one of the last things that has not been touched as far as, working on a way forward and like having the resources, especially around just like classism and poverty within music. It's kind of like if you haven't made inroads XYZ and you don't have generational wealth or, you know, someone in your life that has money, you don't have access to the same resources as those that do. So it's great that there are being, you know, some inroads being made, but then you can only access those things if you have a certain set of circumstances. So it's an ongoing thing that I'm really interested in, actually. And there's a song that I don't think is going to make it onto the record that's coming out in the fall, but I will be putting it out earlier next year. And it's all about this. It's just like being made to feel as though you're less than by the industry. But I think there's more to it than that. And especially now, I feel like the industry doesn't know what's going on because music and music creation for, you know, a career, I don't think they quite know what's going on, and everything's shifting so constantly that a lot of artists are looking to the grassroots way, which is just like, you know, bringing it to the people, having sustainability rather than huge fame. I think that's what I'm most interested in, and that opens up the conversation to how can we be sustainable regardless of our obstacles? How can we attain equity? And not just with, you know, women and gender, non-conforming people that have babies, but also, you know, things like race and sexuality and gender. There's so many aspects that still need to be conquered, especially in the rock industry that I'm in. I find that this is exceptionally the case, just of like how people talk to you. I've had my pedals explained to me a lot by dudes where it's like, I know how they work. I literally have them. They're mine. I'm playing a show. So yeah, all this to say, this is a topic that I could talk about for a long time.
Where it stops. Ooh, my heart's afraid to know. I'm off the deep end. All for the love of you. I depend on the scare that I'm going to. When I stop, I see 11 parts on for me. But your walls, they call to be broken down by me. You're asking for it.
Yeah, it can be very hard. You know, it's wild how your looks are so tied into yourself as a product, which, you know, unfortunately we're all products. We're trying to sell our thing out there. And that's kind of why I started doing more social media that was very just about me and not about, I don't know, whatever else that I wanted to do it about. I just think that, you know, I've had a lot of negative experiences of people commenting on your looks or your body, equating that to your worth, saying things that just drag you down. That's kind of what this song of mine, Tear a Piece, is about. It's just about telling anybody that wants to steal your joy to F right off. And I do think that there is something very gendered about it. Like, this doesn't happen to a lot of the cis dudes that I know that are musicians that are on social media. there's a lot of expectation to live up to. And like I said, especially in the rock industry, like it is quite a bit behind, pop and things like that. Like there's quite a lot of gender parity and equity, but like in the rock places, it's very white, it's very male. And I still, after being on the road for 14 years, like I still get a lot of funny comments and strange predicaments and, have been in shady situations while on the road and scary. Like it's a scary thing. So yeah, it's definitely, there's a long way to go. There's a lot of inroads been made, but there's a long way to go. And so I think it's important for us to keep talking about it as we are right here. And I think there's like a renewed value in a sense of community around music, in a sense of a scene, because that's how we support each other. That's how artists need to, we need to band together. We need to keep having these conversations so that we can potentially find a route forward that we can be excited about. So there is a new record in the can. It's not technically announced yet, but it will be. I'm just gonna give you all the intel. It's gonna be announced in September. It'll be out November 1st, and I am calling it The Act of Living. It's a record all about death, but not just death as this like sullen, scary thing. It's also, death is what keeps life moving forward. It's cyclical. It can be beautiful. It can be connective. It can change you in a really big way, obviously, but it equals change. It equals so many things that we experience day to day. And so there's that's the overarching theme for the record. There's songs about like near-death experiences that I've had. But then there's, the death of anxiety. I have a song on there that's about, the moment that my meds kicked in for the first time and I was able to see clearly and feel that absence of the anxiety in my body. And so that was another cycle. It felt like something was, the chapter was ending, another step forward into the next part of my life. And I think there's just so much beauty in the changes and in the cycles that needs to be appreciated. And I was so afraid of death for so long, and now I can look it in the eye, and it's just such a cathartic process. And it's the only thing too, it's the only thing that we all have in common, guaranteed, is that we have and will experience death around us. Always. It's life.
I was brittle at first. That was me at my worst. I held my finger on the trigger, kept my thirst. And Sam, tore myself apart, killed myself on my art, and I was compromised. I took it all too hard, and I won't go back. I won't go back. I won't give you that, 'cause I fought tooth and nail. I fought tooth and nail, and the fight goes on and on and on. Fought tooth and nail. I fought tooth and nail. Let me take you on and on and on and on.
Soul striptease. Well, I kind of just got into it a little bit there, but I can get into it a little bit more. There are some specific actual deaths that I experienced that influenced some of the songs. The most intimate would be On Your Way, which I think you mentioned. It's a song that I wrote with my friend Matt Mays, where he sent me that exact synth line. And I don't think we even changed it. I think it's just as is on the record because it was so simple and the simplicity was so perfect. And then I sang over it, and my grandfather had just passed. My grandfather and I were very close. He was the one in whose house I grew up in, and you know, he and I were very tight, very close. And when he passed, it was something I'd been dreading my whole life. You know, I'd always stay up at night worried about like, well, something would happen to my parents or something would happen to my grandparents. That I was really, you know, it was, I didn't expect it to be this beautiful, ever tethering moment that it was. And it was, you know, I was lucky enough to experience with him it's kind of an act of service to be there to see him through to the other side. It was him and my mom and I, and it was beautiful. It was a beautiful death. And, you know, not everybody's that lucky to have such a moment, but like we were there with him and we were able to, you know, see him through to the other side. And so I wrote this song in tears of grief still, like it had happened maybe just a week before, but like it was this ode to him and the beauty of his passing and the gratefulness that I had for being the one to be there with him, with my mom and him. And it made me fear death a lot more. And I think that was the crux of why I wanted to make this record in the way that I did, with the death theme and everything. That was the jumping off point, because this song came, it was like 2021, I think, way back when. And then from there I was able to unpack all these other things. My wonderful dog Mojo also just passed, but it was another beautiful death. And there is another single coming out soon. Not to like advertise my singles via my dog's death. It was a very like cathartic, a very like, we did everything for her and we like gave her the best life, the best death, the best time that we possibly could, 0 regrets. And she lived a very long life. But there's a song coming out in August that's called Before the Afterlife. And that's almost like this meditation on death. It's the I think the linchpin of the entire record, because I don't want it to be this dark record about death. I do want there to be a positive ring to it, because I think in our society, especially, you know, in North American society, we don't talk about death very much. And I think, I mean, the reason that I was so afraid of death is because it was the unknown, and that dark, like, impossible to know thing is so much scarier than looking in the eye and being able to process it and deal with it and understand what grief really is, and allow yourself to like heal your relationship with it. I think is so much more healthy. So I want it to be this like opening up process. I like those groups that people just get together and talk about death so that you can be a bit more at ease with it. Just the comfort of talking about death and not having it be this taboo subject, I think, is really important. So Before the Afterlife is that meditation on death and dying and love and like someone's energy and your love for them persisting regardless of whether they're alive or not. So I'm excited to show y'all that. But yes, this album is certainly a soul striptease.
Things are light and we'll stick to the plan. I'll come up before the decay.
I would say that a lot of these songs were very much a therapy process. And it was cool writing them with Hawksley too. The songs that we did had, it was What Is Real, which is such a personal story of, my mom's, the death of reality via, her getting stuck in the dream world. Momentum was about like breaking free, being reborn, that aspect of rebirth as well, and just like shedding the expectations that are thrust upon you from outside of your own, self and self-love. And I think the biggest one that was kind of a therapy is this song that is on the record, not out yet. It's called Round, 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 and it's about this accident that my mom and I got into when I was 15. She was driving and it was winter conditions on a back highway, and we hit black ice, went into oncoming traffic. We're going to hit a big semi, but then the wind picked up and chucked us. We hit a snowbank, and we pirouetted, spun, and crashed, rolled over and over and over again through this field of snow. And we landed upside down next to each other and mostly unharmed. And we just looked over at each other. The car was completely totaled except for this bubble around she and I. And we've talked a lot about that experience because it was a really formative one. And I think not something that everybody experiences. Like, we should have died. People were trying to kick in the windows to get us out because they thought that we were incapacitated, kind of thing. They weren't expecting to see us alive. And she had such an interesting experience because it was not her fault. There's nothing that she could have done differently to stop it from happening. It was just like winter weather, classic Canadian winter weather. But she went through this process of guilt with it where, you know, when it was happening, it was slow motion for her. And she was like, oh my God, I've killed my child. I'm seeing this happen and I don't know how we're going to get out of this. I think I've killed myself and my child. And it took a long, long, long time for her to unpack that, because even though it didn't happen, it was close enough that she got to feel all the emotions affiliated and take on that guilt. And I wanted to write this song, even though I'd said it, you know, in person, but I wrote this song about what happened, but I wanted to put her mind at ease. I wanted to, you know, there's the line, it wasn't your fault when we almost died. That's in the chorus. And I showed it to her before I showed anybody else. And she said she felt very held by it. So I do think that, like, if that's not therapy and healing, what is? The songs were written kind of all over the place. Like I said, I think the first one that was written was with Matt, and that was like back in 2021, but that was like the OG one. A bunch of them, like I said, were written with Hawksley in his studio. We actually recorded the whole record in his studio in Peterborough, Ontario. It's in his garage, and it's just like everything that I would want for a home studio someday, you know what I mean? It's perfect. Otherwise, I did some writing on the West Coast because my parents do live out there for the most part. And there's a place called Hornby Island where my brother's wife is from. And I stayed in a little cabin there, you know, very, like, no TV or anything, like very little service. I could barely do anything but write, and I wrote a bunch of songs there. I go to this, what used to be a cottage hospital in Newfoundland, on the west coast of Newfoundland, and I go there. I think I've written there like 3 or 4 times now, and so I wrote some of the songs there. Yeah, it was kind of like all of my secret places, and you know, one of them was with my friend Jem in his basement. So, like, you know, it has like all these pieces that really make it feel very whole to me. And like I said, the recording process was so empowering and just fun. Like, we just had a good time, and we just like got creative and tried weird stuff. Because I think, like, what's the point in not taking risks anymore? You know what I mean? Like, trying to fit something into a box doesn't work, because there's so much out there that in order to stand out, you need to make a risk. And like, I want to keep risking as an artist. Like, I want there to be stakes in the art that I'm making. I want to try things. I want to move outside my comfort zone. So it was exactly what we did, and I'm so glad we did. It's not a safe record. It's not like something that will be for everybody, but that's okay. I think that's beautiful. And what's important is I love it. And I think you will too. If you follow my music and you feel what I'm about, I think you're gonna like it too.
Read my lips,
So Hawksley Workman co-produced the record. Then co-authors, we had Hawksley on 4 of the songs. On one of the songs, it was Hawksley, myself, and a woman out of the UK named Fiona Bevan, who's amazing. Just like I think we whipped out this song in like a couple hours, and it was done, and it was just so beautiful. That's before the afterlife. Like I said, my friend Jem and I wrote a song called Blood on there, and my friend Matt Mays and I wrote On Your Way. Then as far as other people who worked on the record, my really good friend Rachel Cardiello, who goes by Zinnia, look up Zinnia, really incredible stuff. She played viola all over the record, which we've been playing together for years and years and years. I think we went on our first tour of Italy together in 2017, so that was nice to kind of like, it gave me a chance to bring in all my favorite collaborators for this one. My wonderful bassist, Jay, and my wonderful drummer, Chris, both came in for Momentum and Blood. And that was cool because we got to, kind of road test a lot of, especially Momentum, in Europe and in the States when we played there in the fall of last year. So it was like a cool point to have played the song so much that they grew into a new version of themselves, and then they got to bring that and their own flavors and voices to the studio, which was very cool. My friend Dave Ritter from the Strumbellas came and did some keys. Jem came in and did keys as well, and then it was mastered by my really dear friend Brock McFarlane of CPS Mastering out of Vancouver. So all the buds, can't complain. Will there be an album release tour? There will. There is something in the can for Ontario in Canada. Canada's really big, so doing a full Canadian tour would be pretty hectic, so we'll see about that. But there are some West Coast utterings happening at the beginning of the year next year, East Coast too. There's some stuff happening in the States at the beginning of next year, and then I really want to get back to Europe as soon as I can. So we shall see. Stay tuned. Stay tuned. I feel so good in Europe as a musician. Oh my God. If you go to Germany and they pay you properly and they're happy that you're there and they give you, free drinks and food and are like, oh my God, thank you for coming here with your art that has value. It's a bit of a tricky situation to come back to Canada where, it's not bad, and I have so many good experiences, but it takes a while to build up to a certain place where you feel taken care of or cared for at all. There's definitely that stereotype that a lot of artists in Canada say of why are you here? They're angry that you're there at all, and pay is far less. I've tried to help book my European friends in Canada, and just the rates are way less, and just less of an art culture than exists in Europe. I think Europe's older also. We're such a new country that we go through the growing pains of all of that, and just trying to yes, music doesn't always equal economic huge economic value. It doesn't make money, but there's so much else that art gives a culture, and it does, you know, generates income. People want to do art. People want to see art. So, grow up, Canada. Just kidding. Oh my God. I think right now, just like engaging in any sense of the word is huge currency for artists. So like engaging with their social media, streaming services are such a touchy subject, but I do think that like those numbers count for, getting your feet in the door to make other steps in your career. So like whatever means that you have, all are extremely appreciated by your favorite artists. I can tell you, whether it's, buying merch, coming to the shows, buying tickets ahead of time is a huge thing. There's been a huge shift since the pandemic of people not wanting to buy tickets ahead of time, which totally makes sense. I'm the same. I don't want to commit. I don't know if I'm going to be feeling it that day, but it's really tricky nowadays to know what the shows are going to be like and whether you're going to have a good show or a bad show or a show where you're going to be out money unless there are advanced ticket sales. So I'd say that's a huge one. Whatever you can contribute, whether it's monetary, whether you are adding to those numbers on streaming or social media, or, anytime you save something, that all adds up. So just keep doing what you're doing and make sure you give them some love. When I'm not making music, I like to run, I like to bike ride, I like to read, I like puzzles, I like to hang out with buds. Let's see. I have a D&D podcast with my bassist Jay, they're the DM, and it's called Planet Arcana. You should listen to it. That's a big hobby of mine. You should check it out. I'm a nerd. Highlight of my musical career. It's so tough. That's so tough to know, because there's these moments where you like, this should be the highlight, but it's not. And then I think recently, the Laura Jane Grace Against Me shows that I played were absolutely incredible. And also I got to play this beautiful venue in Tennessee in September last year. That was a cave. It's called the Caverns, and it's literally a cave with a stage and amazing sound in it. And it was one of the most iconic venues I've ever seen in my life. I think the highlight of my career is always ever changing, because just getting to go to a place where people know my music and know the words and come at all, it doesn't get old. So I think I'm constantly being demonstrated to with new highlights in this life, which is cool. Most embarrassing. That's a tricky one. I mean, I'd love to do something with Neil Young. Imagine. That'd be so sweet. Oh, you know what? John K. Sampson of the Weaker Thans. I would love to do a song with him. John, find me. I think, jumping off of that last question, the Weaker Thans, Left and Leaving, or Reconstruction Site. Reconstruction Site? Yeah, Reconstruction Site by the Weaker Thans. Thank you so much, Michael. Thank you for having me. And thank you for your ongoing, just like totally selfless, wonderful support for artists and art. You really care and it shows. And I can't tell you how much it's appreciated, not just from me. I talk to the people that you also support and everybody knows. So thank you. Thank you for being a huge advocate for artist rights. Thank you for just like liking the art that we're doing and being vocal about that. Like that goes a long way, because sometimes you want to quit, you know, and it's little things like that, like seeing somebody be like, this really touched me, or this changed my day. That kind of stuff keeps you going. So thank you for doing what you're doing. Lots of love, my friend. Talk to you soon.